creative agency or a studio, or if you're a creative freelancer, and you've been trying to move into a more value-based pricing model, and you're kind of feeling like you can't get your customers to change their perception of you from like creative supplier to business partner, kind of moving from that doer to thinker position, then I want to show you why your discovery process is based on flawed thinking and is never going to get you better clients, and what you should be doing instead. So first, don't expect your client to know the answers to your real questions. It's all well and good to add a discovery process to the beginning of projects, but for the most part, those questions are to help you deliver the product or service that they're already asking for. But they don't necessarily offer any additional value to the client. And the reality is, when you move out of the build me this for the lowest price market, your clients actually need your help to uncover what they need to be more successful. And the highest value you can give to a struggling client at the beginning of a relationship is to help them identify exactly who they're working for and what specific value they can provide to that audience. Because if they're struggling, it's usually because they're trying to be everything to everyone. So you want to show them what their market needs or wants, and you want to uncover their highest value product or service opportunities based on those market needs before you ever think about which creative service you might be able to deploy to get those results, right? Which is going to require a problem-solving approach rather than just the questions that you need to produce what they think they want. And to do that, you just need to stop delivering a generic strategy session. Sure, there are some questions that you need to ask for every engagement, but there are other things that you need to uncover that will be specific to the project and the goals at hand. So you need to have a different process that you can deliver depending on where your client is in their business lifecycle. For example, you might begin every new client engagement with an audience or a market definition process, right? That could be just part of the new client process, where you make sure that their market, their product or their service opportunities and their growth directions are planned and clear, not just for them, but for you as well, because you'll never be able to meet their goals if they keep moving the goalposts or if they don't know where those goalposts are. But after that, if they want you to build their brand, that's going to look very different to launching a new product line or creating a new campaign message, right? So when you're thinking of being strategic for customers, you just have to think a little more lean. So nobody's got the time or the budget for the long branding and research programs that used to exist, where they sort of uncover the answers to every possible brand and product related question in advance. Brands are almost always built on the fly these days, with constant market feedback affecting all future decisions. So in order to legitimately take a seat at the table with your client, you need to think lean and deploy smaller strategic engagements that can be run super quickly based on wherever your client is in that business life cycle. And that'll get you the answers that you need and uncover the realities you need to know for achieving that particular goal at that stage, right? And the good news is, these type of engagements are easier to run, they take less time, they're less cost restrictive for the client, so easier to sell, but they produce instant results, which lets you maintain that value-based relationship over the long term. Let me give you an example. This is the perfect client lifecycle for a client we did in 2016 when we ran as an agency. We started with a niche sprint, which is also an audience or market definition engagement. We then ran a brand sprint and a naming sprint in tandem to get the brand and the company foundations in place, followed by a messaging sprint to create the verbiage required for all of their web and their sales materials so that they could launch their new brand. And then about 6 months later, when they had the funding in place to expand, they came back to us and we ran a product validation sprint, another naming sprint, and another messaging sprint for the product's messaging, right? Now, if we had still delivered creative execution, which we didn't at that time, we were purely a strategy firm, but if we had, we would have also been Johnny on the spot, right? We would have been the creative partner of choice for all of the creative at each of those steps. So visual identities, marketing materials, ad campaigns, web development, copywriting, all of the rest. But the reason they came to us was not for our creative chops. It was because we could solve problems. So the point is, if you want to attract value-based pricing, you need to become more valuable. And that doesn't mean asking questions to make your own life easier. It means leading your client to the decisions they can't get to alone and that they need to know in order to be successful. So if you want to take a seat at the client's table, you need to be valuable at every step of their business life cycle. And a generic discovery process or even a generic strategy session is not going to work at those different stages. You've got to think a little bit more lean. But when you do that, you can become much more than a creative supplier, and you can become an invaluable part of the client's team. And it's actually not that difficult. Don't overthink what a strategist does. A strategist is really just someone who identifies the core problem and then offers a solution. And that's kind of the beauty of adding strategic processes to a creative business. We're all worried as creatives, we're all worried about productizing the creative because we don't want to break it, right? We don't want to end up with some generic, repeatable process that ends up just being vanilla. But a strategy workshop, whether that be a sprint or if you offer it in a different format, lets you add a value-based productized service, which, although the process doesn't change between clients, it still produces entirely unique results for each client because the input is different every time. So you don't even necessarily have to take on the work that the strategy defines, right? But of course, it usually does lead into agency work afterwards. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little walkthrough and that I've inspired you to explore how your thinking as a strategist can actually become your business's biggest asset. If you'd like to see how to pivot the conversation from creative deliverables and into strategy, so if you've got prospects who are still coming to you for deliverables and you want to step into that strategist role, I've created a free masterclass on how to explain strategy to potential clients, on how to pivot them away from deliverables and into a strategy conversation, how to make sure they can afford you, and how to close them into a strategy sale instead, simply by being more valuable. So if that interests you, click the button here or on one of the links and you can catch the masterclass. It's free and it's available now. I've also included a download with the first contact response and the conversation script with responses to the sticking points and the roadblocks, right? So go ahead and you can learn how to pivot deliverable clients into strategy clients while the class is up and available. Thanks again so much for watching this, and I'll see you in the class.